All right, Amanda, take it away.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for coming here to the Zoom meeting today to talk about home buying. So this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart. Chantel and I were just talking about how she's in the process of selling and purchasing, not her first home, but her second home. So it's a very exciting time. And even if this isn't the first time you're buying a home, the chances are you don't do this every day. So every time it's going to be a little different, and every time it's going to be super exciting. So if you go to the next slide, please. So with, that excitement of buying a home, it can also get a little overwhelming. And today we're going to focus on a couple of easy, I wouldn't say easy, a couple of steps that are going to help you manage all the things that go into purchasing a home that can help you to feel a lot less overwhelmed throughout the entire process. Next slide, please. So the couple of steps that we're going to talk about today are preparing to buy a home, which is check your credit, save for your down payment, know how much home that you can afford, and identify some of the other expenses that you may incur when you purchase a home. So I can speak from personal experience going through the process about a year and a half ago. There's so much to learn, but we'll walk through a lot of it today so that you're prepared to make that decision in a really good place. Next slide, please. Check your credit. Your credit can impact if you get approved for the loan and the interest rate you get on the loan. So it's really important when you're starting to think about, downloading the Zillow app and starting to look at those homes, really before you even get started there, go ahead and review your credit report and your credit score so that you know where you are. If you need to do some work to boost that score so that you get the best interest rate you can, which is historically low right now, take that extra time. Those rates aren't going anywhere for, anytime soon. Get your financial ducks in a row, so to speak, and start to work on boosting that credit score, because in the long run, a lower interest rate is going to save you a lot of money, and a higher credit score is going to provide you with the confidence to apply for the loan and be approved. Next slide, please. Whoop. Yeah, thanks, Chantel. Monitor your credit score and check credit reports for accuracy. So once you review those credit reports and your score that you've been monitoring, if you see any dramatic dips in your score, you may want to definitely check your credit report again, because that's always a sign, or that could be a sign that you're experiencing some identity theft. Also check for any inaccuracies, or if everything is totally accurate, you're great, but make sure that everything on your credit report is something that should be there. If there is an inaccuracy, contact the credit bureaus and work to get that taken off, because again, the credit report and the credit score is going to have a big effect on if you're approved for the mortgage and what interest rate you're approved at. So, next slide, please. So if you've attended any of our other sessions, we've gone over what goes into a credit score. I love this pie chart because it really gives you a great visual of what the important things are that are going to have an effect on your credit score. As you can see, the most important part of your credit score pie is the payment history. So that accounts for about 35% of your credit score. Next is the amount that you owe. So if you're overextended, if you've maxed out your credit cards, that's going to have a really negative effect. If you have a car loan, have a student loan, you're paying those on a regular basis, you don't max out your credit cards, that's going to have a positive effect. You have a mix, which is the next higher part of your credit score, is the mix of credit. So if you only have credit cards, then they're going to be thinking, why haven't you made the investment into something more tangible, like a vehicle or a home or your education? So the credit mix also comes into play. Additionally, how long of a credit history you have. So somebody who has, been building their credit history over 20 years, if they miss a payment, it's not going to affect them that much because they've been really good in paying their bills all the time for 20 years. But somebody who's recently out of college and once every 6 months skips a payment, that's going to have a pretty negative effect on their credit score because they don't have much of a history to play on. And then new credit can also affect your credit score. I have a friend who had a great credit score, about an 800 credit score. On Black Friday, she went out and she got new lawn furniture, and they said, if you open up a credit card, we'll give you 10% off. So she did that. Then she went and got a new stereo system for outside at Best Buy, and they offered her a credit card. She got that. And then she went to Macy's and got a couple of new things for work, and she got that credit card. The next week, her car breaks down. She goes to the auto dealer and they check her credit and they say, oh, we're not going to be able to approve you for the loan because your credit score is below our normal threshold. And that's because she'd applied for so much new credit that it sent up a red flag and downed her score because people were nervous about her applying for so much new credit at once. So be aware, especially throughout the mortgage process, applying for any sort of new credit. That will have a major effect on your credit score and could actually reduce your chances of being approved for the mortgage. So just saying. Next slide, please. So the next important part is saving for a down payment. It's great to aim for 20%, but if this is your first home purchase, that's going to be really hard to do unless you're super disciplined and you're looking for a home that is really affordable. The advantage to having at least 20% down, though, is that you don't have to pay for private mortgage insurance, which can really cost you a lot in the long run. So if you get above 20%, you don't have to pay that. If you're below 20%, you will have to pay that. But the other thing is there are options out there for you to make a down payment that's less. The VA loans or FHA loans, they provide you with options so that first-time home buyers can achieve the goal of becoming a homeowner without draining all of their savings. Next slide, please. Like I said, don't allocate all of your savings to your down payment. So if you've done a great job and you've got what you think could be 20% of your down payment on a house saved up, but you have no other savings, if you make that down payment and then you have a major emergency, or God forbid you lose your job right after you purchase that home, you don't have that cushion. So you do need to still save on top of your down payment enough for an emergency fund, because you never want to be in a position where you've made that down payment, now you've hit an emergency, and now you can't make your mortgage payment. So keep that in mind. Next slide, please. Now, how much home can you afford? This is really important to think about, like I said, before you start even downloading the Zillow or Realtor.com app to your phone. Also, maybe don't do that, because I did that when I purchased my home, and I got probably 20 emails a day about new houses that came on the market, and it was very overwhelming. But anyway, know your front end ratio, the percentage of pre-tax income that should be taken up by housing, and then the back end ratio as well. So how much of your pre-tax income can be taken up by debt payments. So the front end is 28% of your income should go to your housing. Same with the back end. About 33% should be going to debt. So that would be like your student loan debt, your car loan, all that stuff. So about 50% should be like how much you're spending on loans, including your home loan. But 28% towards housing is a really good number to keep in mind, because it keeps you from biting off more than you can chew and becoming house poor. where you've got this great, beautiful house, but you can't afford anything else in your life. Another thing I want to say about that is once you've come up with how much you can afford, it's very tempting to look at houses that are just a little bit over that, but that's a very slippery slope. And you could find that you're more predisposed to purchasing more home than you can afford. And again, being house poor is no fun. Nobody wants to be living in this great house but not able to heat it, or not being able to go on vacation and do all the fun stuff. You really do want to account for all of the fun stuff and living in a house that you can afford. Next slide. Identify other expenses. So there's a lot to consider, especially if you're coming out of a rental. When you rent a home, your landlord is responsible for paying the taxes. They have insurance on it, the rental unit usually. They have to fix everything, which is swell. When you own a house, you pay the taxes, you pay the insurance, you pay the utility bills, you pay all the maintenance. If your fridge breaks, your oven breaks, and your heater breaks in 1 month, there's no landlord to call to fix that. That's all on you. So when you purchase a home, make sure you're going to be able to handle that, because that will be a really major expense, and it'll be continual. It doesn't stop. You always have to be maintaining your home. Another thing you want to consider is this going to increase your commute? Because any increase to your commute, not only does it take away time that you get to spend with the people that you love, but it also takes away money, because you have to pay for the maintenance of a vehicle that's getting driven more, and the fuel to drive that vehicle. So there's a lot of hidden costs in moving, and that's one that everybody should also consider as well. Next slide, please. Next steps. Consider pre-approval, shop for rates, limit changes to your credit, which we talked about, and find your new home. So consider pre-approval. So when I purchased my home, I actually got pre-approval from a small mortgage company in the area here, but I did shop around for rates before that. So I shopped around to several credit unions that I'm a member of, some local banks, and then some small mortgage companies. And I went with the person that I felt comfortable with. That's really important, and it can save you a lot of money. Also, a lot of times some things are negotiable with your mortgage company, so you may be able to negotiate fewer fees and stuff like that. They are willing to work with you. So don't be afraid to ask for something if you think that you might be able to get a better deal somewhere else. Limit changes to your credit. Like I said, when you're shopping for a home, don't also be shopping for a vehicle or new furniture, or getting any sort of new credit cards or anything like that. That could have a major negative effect on your chances of pre-approval, and the ultimate rate that you are able to secure for your mortgage loan. And then, now's the fun part. Find your new home. So go out on all those websites, go out to open houses, go out and do all the fun stuff. Once you have that number that you can afford in your mind, look at houses in that price range, look at houses in that area, but also consider when you're looking at those houses, even if they fit into your budget, make sure you're also accounting for the taxes. Because in this area, at least in Pennsylvania, the taxes can be pretty significantly high. So even neighborhood to neighborhood, township to township. So you may be able to find something that meets all the needs that you have for your new home, but also saves you some money on taxes as well. So next slide. So that's a lot of information. Buying a home is really complicated. If I could tell you how many spreadsheets I created while I was in the process of purchasing my home, it would boggle your mind. But it's important to be able to sit down and do that research because it makes you a more informed consumer, which is really important because there's nobody holding your hand through this entire process. You can talk to your parents, but they maybe haven't bought a new home in 20 years. You can talk to your friends, but they may not feel comfortable sharing that type of information. So you really do have to do your part and educate yourself. But I am a resource here for you as well. So if anybody has any questions about the home buying process, I'm happy to answer any questions now.
And, before we take those questions, I'm gonna stop recording, and then I'm gonna take off the presentation share so that we can see everyone if people have their cameras off. So just hang on tight 1 second.
Sounds